I love body butter, but I'm really not a fan of greasiness in my skincare products. So today in this video, we are talking all about greasiness in body butter, why it happens, and how to prevent it. Let's get started. Hey bees, I'm Marie from Humblebee and Me, and welcome to another deep dive video into body butter formulation. I've already released 2 videos in this series, one on graininess and one on melting, so make sure you check those out too. Today's video is all about greasiness in body butters. Now, before we get started, if you are new here, welcome. My name is Marie and I run humblebeeandme.com, both this YouTube channel and the website humblebeeandme.com. I'm a cosmetic formulator with 2 diplomas in formulation, one in organic skincare formulation and one in organic hair care formulation, both from Formula Botanica. And they are actually offering a brand new, totally free masterclass starting soon. So if you would like to sign up for that, I will throw a link to it in the description box below this video. But without further ado, let's talk about body butters and specifically greasy butters and how to make not greasy body butters. So what is body butter? Now, there are quite a lot of products out there sold as body butters. So for the purposes of this video, we are talking about anhydrous products, so products that don't contain any water, that are primarily made up of butters. So these can be plant butters, so things like shea butter, mango butter, murumuru butter, or pseudo butter, so butters made with hydrogenated oils. So perhaps you've seen things like blueberry butter or aloe butter or coffee butter. Those things are usually hydrogenated or pseudo butters. Depending on the formulation and also the ambient temperature where you live, your body butter formulations may or may not contain a hardening wax like beeswax or candelilla wax, and or fatty thickeners, so things like cetyl alcohol and stearic acid. So that is what we're talking about today, an anhydrous product that is mostly comprised of butters that has a consistency anywhere from a soft solid to a hard solid. So how do you know your body butter is greasy? You will know. You'll put it on your skin and it'll feel like really oily. It'll feel like it's taking a really long time to sink in. You leave greasy fingerprints on things. You kind of feel like, maybe your pants are like sticking to your legs. Like you'll know. Greasiness is one of those sensations that human beings are really good at recognizing. Why is your body butter greasy? One of the first things I encourage people to examine is their expectations for the product. If you are used to a body butter product like the ones sold by the Body Shop, for instance, those are actually emulsified products, so they contain a pretty substantial amount of water. And so if you have been using an emulsified body butter product and then you switch to an anhydrous one that doesn't contain any water, the one that doesn't contain any water is absolutely going to be a lot heavier and a lot greasier than the one that does contain water. If you are expecting emulsified lightness and then you use something that isn't an emulsion, that there's definitely going to be a disconnect between kind of what you're expecting and what you get. So the first thing to think about is, are your expectations realistic? Are you sort of pinning hopes on a formulation that it really could not reasonably achieve because you're thinking about an entirely different type of formulation and maybe you just didn't know it? If you're already a long-time good friend of the totally made up of fat type of body butter, the next thing to take a look at is your fat blend. As a formulator, it is essential that you understand the skin feel of the different fats, butters, oils that you're working with so that you know what they'll bring to your final formulation. Different butters and oils feel different. And so if you have used a lot of a heavy feeling butter, so something like shea butter in a formulation, it makes sense that your final formulation is going to be quite heavy. Whereas if you've used more of a lighter feeling butter like mango butter, the end formulation will be a lot lighter feeling. How can you make a lighter, non-greasy body butter? The first thing I recommend doing is selecting, base ingredients, base fats that are lighter feeling. Take that shea butter and blend it with some mango butter to lighten it up. Or if you've got a liquid oil in there, choose a really lightweight liquid oil like camellia seed oil or a liquid ester, so something like cocoa caprylate or C12 to 15 alkyl benzoate or isopropyl myristate can really help lighten up the feel of the overall formulation. If you've already made a body butter and you're trying to figure out what kind of the culprit in there, the thing that's making it feel really greasy is, go ahead and look up the ingredients in the Humblebee and Me encyclopedia. one of the points that I include on all of the fats and oils in there is how it feels on the skin and the absorbency speed. So if you look something up and you see that I've described it as really heavy feeling and slow to absorb, maybe that's an ingredient that you want to reduce the concentration of and then kind of dial up something that's a little bit lighter and faster absorbing. Another change that you can make to your body butter formulation is just making it a little bit harder. So this doesn't work for everything. In a whipped body butter, for instance, part of that softness, that whippiness is part of the formulation, is integral to it. But if you've made something that is in a tin that's like a hot poured product, just try making it a little bit harder to encourage a more sparing application of the product. If you think about spreading butter on bread, for instance, you're a lot more likely to put a lot more butter on your slice of bread if the butter is at room temperature and soft, and you can really, go in there with your butter knife and get a great big and then smear it around. Whereas if the butter is cold from the fridge, you typically end up with a lot less butter on your bread because it's a lot harder to kind of get out and spread around. Now the product will still, soften and melt on the skin, or at least it should, even if you just ratcheting that melting point up just a little wee bit. But if the product, if you can't go in there and immediately, have a lot of it, if you kind of have to go in and get a little bit and then rub it in and get a little bit and rub it in, then it just makes it harder to apply too much product, and that can really, without actually changing the formulation all that much, helps reduce the perception of the formula as being really greasy. You can also look at incorporating a powder that will help reduce the greasy feel of your formulation. So the easiest type of powder to incorporate is starch. So cornstarch is very readily available, but you can also try rice starch, arrowroot starch, wheat starch, kind of whatever you have that's inexpensive, that you like, that you're not allergic to, can be a really great option. Clay can also work. Just keep in mind that clays have colors, and so you may not want to take a deep red clay and put it in a body butter, because that could cause staining issues with clothes later on. I also really love silica microspheres for making formulations feel a lot lighter and even giving them a dry touch finish, and you don't need much at all. Like 1 to 2% silica microspheres makes a massive difference on the feel of a formulation. And lastly, if all of those strategies just aren't delivering a light enough product for you, try making an emulsified body butter instead. Because emulsified body butters contain a pretty solid water content in them, they feel lighter than body butters. They also just feel different than a full fat body butter because, well, they are different, but they are really, really lovely. They're also more thermally stable. So if you are struggling with melting as well as greasiness, going the emulsified route just might solve all your problems. If you're looking to see sample formulations that use these different strategies, please make sure you're reading the full partner blog post linked in the description box below this video. I have linked to different formulations that I've shared in the last decade that use these different strategies so that you can see them in action. And those are my top tips for making non-greasy body butters. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. Please make sure you check out the Humblebee and Me encyclopedia. It is packed with awesome information, and I'll see you next time.